Hey, it's Ray's Radio, and today I want to talk about how powerful you are as a buyer, where you spend your money. I'm going to guide you in how to start local and within the grocery stores, making your purchases more local. I'm going to give you all the tools and understanding you need with a little bit of sass thrown in, and I hope that you learn a lot today and also can feel empowered to make different decisions that will feel better for your body, mentally and emotionally. These decisions to redirect your money feel good, and they are not something that only special people can do. Everyone has the power to do this. All you have to do is slow down and turn those packages around. When we're talking about products that are Canadian, I have a lot to share with you. Produce is the easiest thing for us to be able to see where it comes from. And that's because it tells us. And the signs tell us. And then sometimes there's also a sticker on the fruit or the vegetable that tells us. However, we are still putting our trust in the system that is correct. And I have seen inconsistencies. That's that. It just is, right? And that's insane that we can't trust that, but that's how it is. I just trust unless something feels wrong, then I'll actually ask someone. The best way for us to do this is to start local. I have been preaching about local foods since 2011. So passionate about people understanding what eating local means. We keep having these waves of deeper understanding and more people waking up and more people figuring this out and seeing how important it is. This is about our health, right? This is about our health, these choices that we can make. We have a lot of power, a lot of buying power with our dollars. We get to take care of ourselves more. It doesn't have to be a stressful thing. It can be little tweaks in your decision making and little tweaks in where your money is going. And guess what? The less money that we spend on things far away from us, the more money we get to keep for ourselves, right? That's a good deal. Not buying the thing is the best deal. Not shopping on Amazon, that's the best deal. Not having to drive through massive corporations, that's the best deal. I understand that it's a challenge for people because we get caught up in our behaviors, our cycles, our habits, and that's what makes it challenging. So I do want to say this requires change. And this requires sacrifice, which generally speaking, people are not good at. You're going to have to learn to slow down. You're going to have to learn to be more aware and conscious of the things that you're buying. And that takes time. And that takes mindfulness. And if you can't do that, then you have to figure out what is my trauma, stress, fear, anger, what is in the way of me accessing me being able to slow down and just pay more attention. Like, what is in the way? And that's really all self-development is looking at ourselves and being like, where does this stuff come from? And then figuring it out and then making another step forward. So it doesn't have to be crazy complex, right? It's just, why am I acting this way? Where is this coming from? And then how do I fix that? How do I shift that? Okay, so I want to tell you first of all, I gave you the sort of warning about produce. There's nothing we can do, really. The only thing we can do is not buy from the grocery store and only buy from the farmers markets. How many people get to do that? Very few. That is the only option. Other than growing your own, that really is the only other option. If you're mad about the produce in the grocery stores, you have to only buy your produce locally or you have to grow your own. Or you just decide to not eat vegetables, which I really don't recommend. To start local. Ask your foodie friends, ask your nutritionist friends, ask in Facebook groups in your community, or find a bulletin board where there is a little handwritten note saying, free range organic eggs, $7 a pop, call this number, call that number. So this is really important, is to find some of the things that you eat regularly that you can get locally. Now in Canada, it's harder to get food locally year-round. It's not impossible, but it's harder. It's Canada. The things that I like to share that are easy to get year-round, if you eat them, Everything I talk about, everything I say is always if this fits your diet. And when I talk about certain foods, it doesn't even mean that I eat that food. It means I'm speaking from a context of local purchasing dollars. Eggs, honey, and greens are foods that you can usually get year-round in Canada. Now, there might be more in your area. If you're in Quebec, for instance, you would probably be buying maple syrup and not honey. What you want to do is find some local growers and providers of those foods, connect with them, get your farmers on speed dial. I've been saying that since 2020. Get your farmers on speed dial, know these people's names, meet with them, get their food. It's not hard. It's just making the time, making it a priority, and doing it. That's where I would start. I would start locally, so just with a few things, okay? Then you got to branch out, because a lot of people don't just eat greens and eggs. If you're going to branch out, you're going to go to the grocery stores. First, you get to decide which grocery store do I want to go to. Is it going to be easier for me to find Canadian in a huge corporation, like a bulk steel floors, 20-foot high shelving kind of operation, or a small independent family run-ish grocery store? There's going to be pros and cons to both, but you get to decide. You get to decide. So you go in there, you're looking for Canadian food. Okay, great. So now you know what you're looking for. So first of all, we're not seeking perfection here, right? Let's say we want to go for like 50-50. Or if you've already been buying local more, say that you want to go 80-20. What you want to do is slow down, turn those packages around. That's it. That's literally it. Let's take, something like mustard, for example. You turn it around, it's going to say imported by da 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 da. Now, imported by automatically already means it's coming from another country. If you see product of, bingo, yay, ding, 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 that line is going to tell you exactly where that product is from. So it might say product of Canada, it might say product of USA. Then you know where that product was from. However, here's a really fun disclaimer in that. If you have the time and you're totally bored, I totally recommend researching this to have your mind blown. Because I did. This was one of my projects in nutrition school back in 2010. I had to research a product, actually multiple products, and find out where each of the ingredients in that product were from. If it says a product of Canada, it doesn't necessarily mean that all of the ingredients are from Canada, right? That's not possible. There's going to be a place in Canada where they gather those ingredients and then they smush it together and put it in the package and send it. You're still technically supporting a local company when you buy that, if it says produced in Canada, unless it has like a special made in BC or a special other little tag or sticker on it, that's great. But for the most part, this is how our industrial food system works. You're going to get your baking soda comes from this country, your salt comes from this country, this comes from that country, and it is mind-boggling. Anyways, moving on. Supporting local means these small family-run businesses likely use more local products. This is something I want to stress. Okay, so if you're thinking more local, you want to look at where you're spending your money and figure out where you can move that to smaller local businesses instead. We have choices, right? Every day we're spending our money in different places and we have the choices to do what we like with it. That has ethical ramifications, and it also has ramifications that's consequences for our body, mind, and spirit. If someone decides to spend their money on a $7 Frappuccino whip with extra chocolate chips and caramel sauce, and someone else decides to spend that $7 on grapefruits for juicing, those have very different consequences and reactions in the body. Not saying that one is good or bad. I'm just saying there's different consequences based on the choice. Now, what I've seen in the last little while is a lot of these lists going around on social media. Here's a list of all the Canadian places to shop at. Here's a list of all the Canadian restaurants to drive through. And I'm reading the list going, it's like, sorry guys, Tim Hortons not Canadian anymore. Like, we know this, right? Why are these restaurants and places making the list? Like, honestly, and honestly, who's going to pull up that list? Really? So this is something that takes like we got to sit down, we got to think about it, we got to plan this out, we got to make some tweaks, make our decisions, make our own personal list like shopping list. And for health, I mean, I would cut out all the fast food places, to be honest. But I especially would like to break the myth that Tim Hortons is this, beautiful, special, nostalgic Canadian place. Like, we have the internet at our fingertips. Just Google it quick. That's not real anymore. Sorry. Sorry to burst the bubble there. That's happened a long time ago. So the reason I'm saying to support the small family-run businesses is because they likely use more local products than a big box would. Okay, I'm not going to be able to find like, oh, they're selling Sally's honey from down the street at the cash register. That can't happen. That can't happen there. They have these huge, strict partnerships who they use for their products, their items, their food, their drinks. If I go to a small place, they're going to have local partnerships. I'm going to be able to buy candles. I'm going to be able to buy honey. I'm going to be able to buy chocolate. I'm going to be able to buy coffee beans locally. So that's another reason that the small family-run places are so pushed instead of the multinational, huge, massive corporations. The small guys support the small guys. The big guys do not support the small guys. Okay, so you can give more buying power to everyone locally when you support that one smaller family-run place. If you give your money to a locally curated consignment boutique rather than a mart, totally different buying power, and you're supporting a local family. The thing that I think is really important to also share about all this is if you've ever heard of the 100-mile diet, it can help you a little bit. I don't recommend diets ever, but the 100-mile diet it's not a diet. It's not like a weight loss plan. It's the idea that you want to eat. Everything that you eat is from within 100 miles of where you live, which is really cool. So even if you find like one product to add to your repertoire that is within 100 miles, that's very cool. And something that I like to think about is our ancestors wouldn't have to do all this work, but also they wouldn't have all the choices that we do. We're so lucky. It's incredible. Like, we can buy raspberries in December. We can have like all these beautiful foods from all over the world. Mangoes in Canada? What? Like, that's amazing. Like, that didn't exist hundreds of years ago, right? It's like there's dark and there's light there. It's like it's so dark that there's so much corruption. It's so dark that it can be harmful. It's so dark that we have so many choices. We're so confused and lost and stressed. It's so light that it's beautiful that we have so many options. It's so light that we have these amazing foods from all over the world that we can access at times of the year that we would never be able to access those foods normally. It's a blessing, and it's not. It is possible to live in a mostly local way. I'll just recap for you. Start local. Ask your foodie friends. Ask in Facebook groups. Where can I get eggs? Where can I get honey? Where can I get greens? Start making lists. Try new recipes with the foods you get. Like, if you're like, wow, I've never really bought local beets and carrots. I don't really know what to do with that. Maybe you find a local meat supplier and you discover a really simple recipe for a bison, beets, carrot, potato stew that uses mostly local ingredients, right? So maybe you find new recipes. So we're starting local, starting really small, 100-mile diet, and then we're going bigger. We're going into the grocery stores and we're slowing down and turning packages around. We're looking at produce, just trusting what it says, product of blank, or imported by blank. That's going to tell us what we need to know. So this is possible. It is easy. It's actually just making the time to do it. And just remember, it is very possible to live in this mostly local way. And this isn't something that you just want to do short term, right? This is like something that we can incorporate and become a way of life for us and become part of our sustainable lifestyle, that we are moving our money into places that are going to be giving us more nourishing food. And when we're eating more nourishing food, we actually spend less because we're not constantly starving. We're not constantly hungry. When we're really hungry all the time, it's usually because we're eating a lot of processed foods and our body's more hungry because it's like, hey, can I have some actual nutrition? I don't care about calories. I want actual nutrition now, right? So the more nourishing food we eat, the more we can spend on our food, because we're not spending money on all the junk, all the fast foods. This is your encouragement today. You can do this. It feels really good to do this. And it's just about slowing down and taking the time to prioritize it. And thank you so much for making that time to do it.